Howdy folks, Justin here, and we got some exciting stuff to talk about today. An article just went up on PCGamer.com detailing a bunch of the new cards that they got to play with at E3 this weekend at the Bethesda stage. So, three of these cards that we haven't seen before have images, and unfortunately the rest are just text, but we will be covering the text ones as well as the image ones. We'll start off with the text ones because I want to make sure I don't miss any of those. So the first new card I want to talk about is Mentor of the Watch, a 3 Magicka Endurance. That's purple. 2/2 Imperial with a text, Prophecy and Guard. Already getting huge playability points for having Prophecy. Summon, give a creature in your hand guard. Okay, this is the first time that we've modified cards that are in our hand, and this is that I can recall. And along with the new purple dragon we have, who is modifying cards in our discard pile, we're seeing a lot of new areas explored very quickly here, which is something I like to see. I think the game is already very satisfyingly deep, but I think that these cards hint at the risk taking that Direwolf and Bethesda are willing to take, and it's really exciting. That's Mentor of the Watch, 3 Magicka Endurance card, 2/2, says Prophecy Guard, Summon, give a creature in your hand guard. So this is a good card to synergize with the Guard Matters card in purple already, Captain of the Watch, I believe that card is called, and as well as just a reasonable defensive card for a number of decks. We also have Dragon Cult Ghost, another endurance card, another purple card. This is a 3 Magicka 3/3 Spirit. So already, a 3/3 for 3 is already playable. But it says spend all your Magicka to play Dragon Cult Ghost. Its power and health are equal to the Magicka spent. So this is, you're only the smallest one you're going to get is the 3 Magicka 3/3. But let's say that you top deck this in Scout Ramp, and it's turn 12, and you got 18 Magicka. All of a sudden your the card that you played in the early game, you can play in the early game to trade into your opponent's creatures, clear the way for your Blood Magic Lord, so on and so forth later on, is a 15/15. And Scout in particular sometimes runs out of cards in the late game, especially against control. This presents a must-kill threat, even on turns 8+, where you're at 8 Magicka, or if you're playing Scout Ramp, 10, 12 Magicka. This is the sort of card that you can, it just offers a whole lot of flexibility, and I think a 3/3 for 3 is totally playable. There are situations where your deck's got better late game than your opponent's deck, so you play the Haunting Spirit, the 3 Magicka 3/3 purple card that with Last Gasp give a random friendly creature +3/+3. You play that guy, knowing you're probably not going to get that Last Gasp value, just because if you get to the late game without having taken too much damage, you're going to end up winning that game. I think Dragon Cult Ghost is definitely potentially going to get, definitely potentially. We'll probably see some play, and I think it's an arena bomb for sure. Next we have Snowhawk Detachment, which is a 5 Magicka Willpower, yellow card, 3/5 creature with the text Guard, summon, get +1/+1 if you control another creature with Guard. This is another card that is supporting the Guard archetype that sort of was hinted at in our base set, but hasn't seen a lot of expansion since then. And I like that the Spellsword colors are getting these sorts of cards, doubling down on a strategy that they've already employed, which is putting down, the Hive Defender is the poster child for this, as well as the new Dark Guardian from Fall of the Dark Brotherhood. But I think that Snowhawk Detachment is a reasonable card. You're hopefully never playing it as a 5 Magicka 3/5. Hopefully you're always playing it as a 5 Magicka 4/6, which is, a 3/6 for 4 is what you get from Hive Defender, so it's not the best rate. I don't know that this one's constructed playable, but I like what it's indicating we're going to see more of. We also have Sharepoint Dragon, which is a 6 Magicka 4/4 green card. It's agility. It's a dragon, of course, and it says, summon, give a creature -2/2. When you reduce a creature's power or health with another effect, reduce it by an extra 1. So this combo is obviously with cards like Chaos Reaper, with Curse, Murkwater Witch even. It's just a really interesting card. Green has some of the most interesting and powerful removal in the game in the form of Leaf Lurker and Finish Off. But sometimes you don't get to combo those with the Murkwater Witch or the Curse and stuff like that. So getting extra value out of those Murkwater Witches and Curses is definitely interesting. You're basically getting a 6 Magicka 6/6 worth of stats on the board when you play this, assuming your opponent has anything on the board to give -2/-2 to. So I think that the stats line up pretty well. I think a 6 Magicka 6/6 on its own isn't necessarily playable, but the flexibility this offers you just with in a vacuum without the additional beefing up of other abilities is definitely a card I want to test out. I don't know where you have room for this right now, although we're gonna get so many new cards. Who's to say that this isn't going to be part of a new -1/-1 archetype? But I think Sharepoint Dragon is a really interesting card, one that I'm excited to see. And I I don't like to draw a lot of comparisons to other card games, but it's a sort of like complexity that I'm just really excited to see. Like I mentioned with Mentor of the Watch and the direction the game is taking. Finally, we have Dragon Plate Armor. This is the last of the text-only cards. It's a 4 Magicka Endurance purple item. It says +2/+2. And when you summon it, it gives another +2/+2 if you have a dragon in your discard pile. This is just doubling down on the discard pile synergies that we're seeing in Endurance, which is making me super excited. This is a whole, Endurance was already home to overstated, undercosted creatures, and so a bunch of lethal creatures and ramp. The addition in recent sets of more discard pile synergies is super excited. As well as tying in the dragon theme. Who's to know? I don't know yet how many dragons we're going to get in the set, but I'm definitely excited to see. If we're getting equipment like this, it tells me we're probably going to get a lot of dragons, which is definitely exciting. I'm a huge fan of playing giant creatures. I think ramping into dragons might be my new thing. And Dragon Plate Armor, while not necessarily a constructed playable card, if you have a dragon in your discard pile, it's going to function a lot like Dawnbreaker, which I think is an amazing card. But, Dawnbreaker is good for sealing out games and randomly killing Blood Magic Lords. Dragon Plate Armor requires you have a dragon in your discard pile to get that buff, so items usually work best in decks that are pushing damage in the early to mid-game in particular. So, +4/+4, turn 16 when you got a dragon in your discard pile. I'm not sure how useful that'll be, but if there's a bunch of one-cost dragons, that could totally change. So now we're going to get to the card you've been staring at for a while, as well as two more that are right behind it. We have Unrelenting Force, our first shout card. This card was first debuted on CVH's stream today. This gives you, this is basically what we all thought the mechanic was going to operate like, where you play a shout, and you start off with the one on your left. All 3 copies in your deck are the one on the left. Unsummon any creature with power 3 or less. Okay, so it's a much worse cast out the first time you play it. You cast a second Unrelenting Force or a level 2 Unrelenting Force, unsummon an enemy creature, and a level 3, unsummon all enemy creatures in a lane, which is obviously a huge tempo swing in a lot of situations. I think on its own this card is not at a power level for constructed, but what we've been told over and over again is that there are going to be cards that synergize with shouts. We already saw one of these. Actually, let me bring it up real quick. We did see a card that synergizes with shouts, and the other thing we were told we were going to get is cards that advance your shouts more quickly. So yeah, here we have Ulfric Stormcloak, 5 Magicka, 6/5 breakthrough. This guy is definitely playable. When you play a shout, draw a random Nord from your deck. You get enough cards like this, or enough cards like a 1 Magicka 1/1. I'm just making this one up, that says advance all your shouts to level 2. I mean, a 1 Magicka 2/1 that says that, I think actually is probably playable, and that's only seeing one shout. But yeah, I like what this is doing. This is a common, so you're going to see a number of these in Arena. I don't think shout is necessarily the strongest mechanic in Arena, unless we see a whole lot of support for it too at common and maybe at rare. But it's worth pointing out that drafting a bomb that interacts with shout cards in Arena can now be a viable strategy to draft around if it's that powerful. It remains to be seen whether or not we get cards like that, but I have to imagine we do, because the people who are designing this game at Direwolf Digital, most of them are huge Magic players, professional Magic players in a lot of cases, and those guys know something about interesting draft formats, and I think that is something that would definitely be fun to see. So now we have Duel Atop the World, another red card, and it says give a friendly creature +3/+3. It battles your opponent's most powerful creature. I assume this is how the fight mechanic works in Magic, where they deal damage to each other equal to their attack. Um, this going into red makes a lot of sense. This is new territory for red. This is red removal. I think this is probably more interesting red removal, although this card in particular might be a lower power level than Fell the Mighty. I think Duel Atop the World is a really exciting card. I think this card's great in Arena. I don't know that this card is constructed playable necessarily, but first of all, that art is crazy cool. And second of all, this new battle mechanic is a very intuitive, grokkable keyword, if you will, and I think it fits perfectly in red. Hopefully we get to see it maybe in green, maybe even in yellow. Um, it functions as removal is why I'm thinking it might fit in yellow, but who's to say? I think this is exciting. Um, this obviously synergizes with a lot of the same cards you're going to be running in Unstoppable Rage decks. So if you're into that sort of thing, feel free to try out Duel Atop the World. Um, and I assume that battling your opponent's most powerful creature when your creature has Breakthrough functions the same way that Breakthrough and Unstoppable Rage do. I could be mistaken, but that would be my guess. So Duel Atop the World, and finally we have a brand new dragon for you, and this is a dragon at common rarity, which is something that I think is important to point out. We have Dov'of the Voice. I am only familiar with Christina Aguilera of The Voice, but Dov'of the Voice is, I think she was on that show. I hope so. I've never actually seen it. We have a 7 magic, a 6/4. Last cast, put a random shout into your hand. So this is the beginning of some of those shout cards. Putting a random shout in your hand is, random is random. There's a place for this sort of thing in the game. I think as a 7 Magica card, this isn't going to be breaking a lot of games as far as like, I'm super tilted because my opponent got the right shout at the right time off their Dov'of the Voice. A 6/4 is already a creature you have to deal with, so the shout in addition to it when you're slogging it out with dragons isn't necessarily going to have a huge impact on the game, but if the format slows down a bit and it becomes sort of this battle cruiser format where we're slogging it out with dragons, this could be a huge card. It's a guaranteed 2-for-1. Well, not guaranteed, but almost certainly a 2-for-1 because 6 power is quite a bit, and even if your opponent just lightning bolts it, you get a shout in response. And this can help you level up your own shouts if you get lucky and you get a shout that's in your deck already, or it can just give you access to things that aren't normally in your colors, which can be a lot of fun. I definitely see the entertainment value in that. But what I'm really excited about is seeing support for dragons at common. I think it's great. The art's amazing, and yeah. So those are the new cards we've seen so far. I know I just made a video with some, where Lark the Nord, who will probably be back, was talking about some of the new cards, but they're coming out fast. We've got 150 cards coming. If you have any suggestions for how you want me to do these videos about the cards, maybe a weekly roundup video, go ahead and let me know. And then next week too, we'll be announcing the schedule for content coming out. Right now, I'm just sort of uploading a whole bunch of stuff, let everybody know how excited I am to be back. But yeah, I hope everyone's having a great time. We have a new dance outro that I hope you enjoy, and I will see you all on the ladder.